What is up, folks? It's Richie Rich back for good. Yes, get in touch with the CEO of the Rich team. Yes, so on this one, folks, I'm gonna be taking a look back on a series that I feel is even better now, almost like coming to about almost 25 to 30 years now, and it really kind of like rejuvenated the buddy cop formula, the buddy cop franchise. It gave it more life. In the late 90s, and it could only possibly be Rush Hour, the East meets the West. Chris Tucker, Jackie Chan. Yeah, so we're gonna be looking at the Rush Hour series. Just like always, when I do these reviews, I always try to mention like the first time I watched this, like the history 4 years ago, and I just checked my library and it seems that it's in pretty good condition on there. So I'm gonna play that review, then at the end I'm gonna give you my thoughts on like, do I still agree with what I said 4 years ago about this movie and like, has any of my opinions changed? But without further ado, let's get the Rush Hour 1 from 1998 retrospective review on the way. On the back cover, it's more than just a movie. Well, New Line Cinema, I have to agree with you right there. But yes, Rush Hour, one of the most like famous buddy comedy films that came out in the late 90s, starring the fast-talking Chris Tucker and the martial arts legend Jackie Chan. So like, this movie is very, very dear to me, and it's sort of a sequels, Rush Hour 2, which came in 2001, and Rush Hour 3 that came out in 2007, which I'll speak more about later. But the Rush Hour, the whole premise of Rush Hour it's a very like it feels it's kind of more legendary now with age, just for like the there's a lot of firsts in this movie. This is one of the first times you had like an African American actor and an Asian Chinese superstar in Jackie Chan as lead, and especially in now we're making change. Now I touch on the plot. Let's talk about everybody's two favorite like buddy cop actors, Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. So like, how this kind of like the origins of this kind of film, even way back, you have to go back to a year before this film came out. Chris Tucker, who really was starting to become like the the superstar that he later transcended to. He was in the he was one of the few comedians who won the Def Comedy Jam series, which I've also done a review on. That was with Russell Simmons and all those breakout stars, Martin Lawrence, David Chappelle, Steve Harvey. The list goes on and on. Chris Tucker appeared on it a couple times, but each time he came on, he rocked the house. He had the fans like dying out. People were coming to see him dying out laughing. So he had a few like appearances like other 90s like stars, where he appeared in Hanging with Mr. Cooper. He appeared in House Party 3. Then his big breakout role came as Smokey in the 1995 comedy hood film Friday. So after that, a couple years ago, he made some appearances like in Jackie Brown, Dead Presidents, and his other big like title role was Money Talks. And it just so happened the guy who directed Money Talks, who directed this, was Brett Rayner. Brett Rayner at the time was just like kind of getting his feet, when the Hollywood games, so Money Talks and like Rush Hour were his first two big like commercial successful films. Then it's like he went on to direct the other Rush Hour films and that. But it really is because Money Talks wasn't possibly like a best receipt. It was like for what it was a good thing, but it was a good hit because you were able to see Chris Tucker in a title role, you know what I mean, like see how his comedic abilities are. And you could see with Chris Tucker, I think what really shines out with him, no one had seen someone like him before, like the high-pitched voice, the fast talking, and he could kind of play on other actors, you know, like how he plays alongside Charlie Sheen is completely different how he plays to Jackie Chan in this, but it works well, you know what I mean, not just the different dynamics of the two characters they're portraying. And like what I really like, you know, appreciate Chris Tucker is I had to say, like, there was a void with like the let's say like the black comedic cop. You know, I felt like Eddie Murphy was the last one who really brought, you know, came to like major prominence with like the Beverly Hills Cop, and also he did the 48 Hours, you know, of like, you know, the fast talking cop as the buddy cop films, you know. After Eddie kind of like, you know, hanged up his boots and he went on to that kind of family friendly genre, it feels like Chris Tucker was the natural successor to Eddie Murphy. And it was even mentioned, you know, I watched a review of Siskel and Ebert. I only start watching more of their reviews after, you know, just to get more of a taste of what the films are, because they were both like, you know, great professionals in handling like how films were reviewed, you know, and like they said the same thing, you know. You can see like there's just a lot of like homage to how Eddie Murphy is in them films, you know, and Chris Tucker brings his A game. And like, of course, you know, who doesn't know Jackie Chan, you know, I mean, what I've always loved with Jackie Chan, because I'm gonna say straight up now, like I've always been a big die-hard Bruce Lee fan. If I can find it, I may even put it up one day. Like I had a big Bruce Lee poster that I used to put like in my bedroom wall, you know. I used to idolize Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon, Game of Death, the Big Boss and that, you know. So I felt like it's been like, speaking of like you know, successors, you know, Eddie Murphy and like Chris Tucker kind of like succeeded him. I always felt like Jackie Chan was the best like representation of someone who succeeded Bruce Lee, you know. But as I say, successor, it wasn't like he was like just imitation of Bruce Lee, you know. Jackie Chan, even if you see his earlier films like, you know, Rumble in the Bronx, and like, you know, few of his other movies that he made in China, and even when he came to America and he was making his films and they like, you know, just dubbed him, you know, he always combined like his humor with his like martial arts, you know. He was one of the few like Chinese martial artists to do that, you know. So it made perfect sense to put these two guys together, you know, like, you know, first time, you know, like you know, I even heard like when they first got together, like they didn't know who they were, you know, like Chris Tucker didn't know Jackie Chan, and Jackie Chan only knew Eddie Murphy, believe it or not, you know what I mean. So, and sometimes that's the best designs for like a successful recipe, you know. Sometimes you just have an experiment and give it a shot, you know, and it turned out to be a, you know, a perfect dish. Like, yeah, you know, the plot with this movie is very like you know, your standard kind of cop buddy film, you know. What happens is there's like a big authority figure. Like the film starts off in China, you know, and a great like action sequence scenes of like, you know, Jackie Chan chasing like one of the main antagonists of this film. Ken Leung, who plays Sang, you know, he was the Asian man with the blonde hair. He also had the scar just underneath his eye, very reminiscent to like the James Bond villains, you know, like if them having an eye patch or like, you know, terrible disfigurement, you know. He was like kind of like you know, it obviously influenced the character design for him, you know. So he appears very early at the start of this film, you know, like when, you know, Jackie Chan is playing Detective Lee, you know, he's chasing him in a great action sequence. And what's so very good with this film, Jackie Chan, he does all these stunts like he always has done in the past, you know. All them shots you see, in like there's one bit where I think it's like a compactor, like it's about to close in. Jackie Chan kind of does this like kind of parkour movement and he jumps up to safety, all done in shot, you know. So it's really cool, like you're not seeing like you know, because like when they're sometimes showing like a stunt double, they'll zoom out, you can always see Jackie like in the midst of like his battles and escaping to safety. after that happens, you know, like Detective Lee, you know, he's able to like you know, catch Ken Leung's character Sang. You know, he goes back to the council. You know, the council is like, I'm pretty sure he's like, if there was a version of like maybe a mayor or like a district attorney in that part of like where it's set at the start in China, you know, I believe he is that, you know, and he Council Solo Han, you know, who's played by Seymour, you know. So in the early parts of the film, you know, it shows Lee meeting the council's daughter, you know, and they kind of rapport, you know. It's like even though like you know, he works for the council, you know, he has his very like, you know, relationship with the council's daughter, you know, like it was a uncle, you know. So, like, as that part, you know, it already introduced Lee. What was really cool is already introduced Lee to like Lee Jackie Chan to what, like, you know, you're gonna see, you know, the film straight off moves to LA, and we get to see Chris Tucker. You know, Chris Tucker at the start, you know, I think he's tailing one guy who happens to be selling C4. You know, which leads on to what happens in later. You know, he's selling C4. You know, so he ends up like busting him, and you know, he blasted his car, you know, which had C4, and it blows a big explosion in the middle of like, you know, Los Angeles. You know what I mean? And when he hits it, like Chris Tucker, who, as mentioned before, he's a big fan of my Jack show. He does like a thing from another part of me, you know, which is cool. But it already, within like already like 15 minutes into the picture, you already see the two characters of Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, you know, for them two respective settings in Asia and America. So yeah, you know, how the whole thing like kind of mixes of like, you know, these two, I think it's called the fastest mouth in the West, means like the fastest hands in the East. That was one of the slogans for this film. The council that I mentioned about his daughter gets like kidnapped, you know, and you know, this happened by Sang, you know, the one who was in that kind of like chase with Jackie Chan early on, you know. So they hijacked the thing, like they hijacked the daughter, you know, and she's like basically for the majority of the film, like to the end in the climax, you know, she's just like off screen. You'll see like some scenes of being like, oh papa, you know, like you know, like you need someone to kind of save you and that, but she's pretty much off screen, you know. So what happens is because the whole when she gets kidnapped, it happens to be in LA as well. Council Han gets in touch with like, you know, the FBI there who are dealing with the man, and says he wants to send like his best operative, you know, like detective, and he says Detective Lee. And it just so happens, because of that incident that Chris Tucker caused on the streets trying to catch that guy with the C4, the FBI basically don't want Jackie Chan involved in the case, so they contact the LAPD basically to send someone to just like kind of like put, you know, Jackie Chan's character Lee out of the picture, you know. And like LAPD basically get a hold of Chris Tucker, you know. Because of that, they were like, yeah, he's worth about a good job because he's just an imbecile, you know. And yeah, that's how they end up meeting, you know. Like Chris Tucker originally, Detective Carter was just meant to be like Jackie Chan's tour guide, you know, whilst the FBI can handle the situation. And yeah, man, it's just really cool, like from how you see them to the end, you know what I mean? Because there's so different dynamics, but the underlining kind of similarities between both of them is they just got a knack for like comedy. You know, I think that's just something you can't teach, you know. I think they just really bonded. I think not even just as the characters, but in the, behind the scenes, they just like bonded due to their like love for like you know, comedy, you know. So like as the film like, you know, progresses, you know, they have like some big action sequences, you know, like when, you know, they kind of just go into it like, you know, like Detective Carter and Lee are now kind of a team, you know, that kind of thing. Like the FBI are never going to really solve this, so they got to do it themselves, you know. And they go into another action scene where there's this big building on the streets of Los Angeles, you know, and the FBI basically kind of raid that building, and you know, they go there and the C4 that was mentioned earlier, they basically blowed it whole up because Sang was basically asking for a ransom for the daughter, you know. So the FBI mess up miserably, and yeah, it's up to like Lee and Carr to chase Sang, you know. And great scene, you know, they find in this building, it's like abandoned and dark, you know. Jackie Chan's like keeping his own with Sang, you know. Detective Carter is like chasing along, you know, and they end up like falling in one of the debris, you know. But one of the good things that happened is they were able to find like one of the triggers for C4, you know. So they, you know, link, you know, they find out like who is like Jun Tao, you know, who Jun Tao, I believe in like the AJ means like a kind of like a criminal mastermind, you know. But they couldn't put like the face to who Shin Tao was, you know. It only happens to the end that it turns out that it was the councilman's friend, who I forgot to mention, Tom Wilkinson, who also was the Albert Falcone in Batman Begins. He was the criminal mastermind who Sang worked for and also ordered the kidnapping of the councilman's daughter. So yeah, man, like you know, the going towards like, you know, the big ending, like, you know, finale of the film, you know, I really love just seeing because what was really good with this film, even though it was shot in America, it brought the culture of Asia, you know. When they're at the end, it's like a museum celebrating like Asian like history, and you can see like the vases, you can see like the Asian like sculptures and the artwork, you know, even though the way they make like the you know, the carpets and then the whole setting, it's like to really touch about like the rich history of Asia, you know. So it really makes sense, you know, when you see Jackie Chan at the end and he's finding a lot of like, you know, the you know, the antagonist, you know, the Asian like kind of henchman, you know. It's really cool, you know. And it's sick at the end as well when you know. So like I love the whole thing of like the FBI were never ever gonna solve this case, you know, if they just let it to those two gentlemen who wanted to basically mess around with Chris Tucker, you know. I strongly believe the kidnapping, you know what I mean, because it's like you know, when criminals, you know, once they got the money, they would have taken the door anyway. It's just a ransom, you know. I think Detective Lee and Carl were already smart enough to know that if they get the money, they're just gonna, you know, take out the door anyway, you know. So they had to kind of work against the grain to get them, you know. And what's really nice is at the end, you know, it's only Detective Carr and Lee who come out of the place unfazed, you know. All those FBI's like personnel, they get taken out, you know, by Tom Wilkinson's character and his henchmen. Yeah, man, it's just a real kind of like it's really just kind of a nice kind of like ending scene of like, you know, the door. I always felt that nice embrace, you know, like of when, you know, the councilman gets his daughter back, you know. It's like, you know, I mean, you felt for that, you know. I don't have any like kind of children, but you could kind of feel that, like if you know, when your kids, like God forbid that happen and you end up getting them again, you know, it's the best relief, you know. And and it's also cool, like near the like the last part of the film, it leads on to what goes on to happen 2 years, I believe it was 3 years later, it's Rush Hour 2, you know. They're on the plane like jetting to Asia, because like Detective Carr was able to get some holiday time off, you know. So yeah, it turns out to be like you know, ending or just the beginning for Detective Carter and Detective Lee. So like Rush Hour, man, would I say that like this is either like Jackie Chan's best film or Chris Tucker's best film? You know, it is very difficult to say, because I honestly think like nationwide, you know, across the world, I know for sure like Chris Tucker is mostly widely known for this film, you know. Possibly, and this is where it ties on to differently, like possibly for both of them, you know. In the black community, of course, you know, we know Chris Tucker from like Def Comedy Jam, Money Talks on Friday, and I'm pretty sure in the Asia community we know Jackie Chan from like Rumble in the Bronx, First Strike, you know, and a few. But combined together, I think like nation, like I said, across the world, they're always gonna be known from this film, you know, like just the way they just gel so much, you know, because like on paper, you know, putting like a martial arts expert and just the most fast talking, you know, one of the most funniest like you know, comedians, you know, to ever grace like, you know, cinema, you know, I mean, it shouldn't work, you know what I mean, because they're too different. But as I mentioned, the underlying factor of comedy, it works well, you know. The best thing with them is both of them don't have an ego, you know. Things are starting to change, and I think obviously the way how their chemistry works in this led to these possible sequels, like, you know, the possible sequels that did end up happening, like Rush Hour 2, which Rush Hour 2 I remember I saw in the States when it first came out, you know, which was a packed full house, you know, and it was just non-stop laughing, you know. The first one just took probably the story a bit more serious, where the second one was just, you know, non-stop entertainment, you know, and they travel from different locations, but they, you know, Chris Rock and Jackie Chan both work well in the second one. Then the third one, the less I say about that one, that came in 2007, the third one legit just felt like a money grab, you know. I think there has been a long like stigma in Hollywood, like when they've made a successful first film that was never meant to, you know, be as big as you know, what the studio thought it could become, you know. And then the second one is usually not good as first one, makes a lot of money as well. Ideally they always follow it on the third one, you know, and they took a longer gap because this second one was in 2001, third one came out in 2007, you know, and you can just feel that there's just a big disconnect, you know. You know, it's you know, it's good here and there, you know, but it felt like the second one was just the time to end it, you know. Sometimes with these series, you know, you don't have to always get to the trilogy, you know, you can get to it, but I always feel like just to keep, you know, the films like, you know, strong in a legacy, you know, end it at its highest, and I feel like Rush Hour 2 was just the perfect time to end it, you know. But 3 is an enjoyable flick, you know, if you want to check it out. It would have been best like in another genre, but it didn't have to be a Rush Hour, you know, rather than like making a, like, you know, a Rush Hour 3 or 4, you know. How many times can Rush Hour be there, you know? But like, it would have been nice to just been in a different kind of spin, you know. If it was me, I would have put them in the direction, because yeah, I just think like the pairing of them is just the best. But yeah, definitely anyone who's seen like you know, Lethal Weapon, or like most importantly seen like the 48 Hours and Beverly Hills Cop, you know, the Eddie Murphy films, this is like a nutty version of what Beverly Hills Cop would have been, you know. So, and I think Beverly Hills Cop is in Los Angeles as well, Malibu, yeah, Beverly Hills Cop, you know. So yeah, definitely check this out, you know. This is like almost 20 years after it, you know, and this film still good, you know. All the practical effects that they use in this is still superb, you know. And right, one thing I got to mention in that, so like, you know, as I was mentioning like buddy cop films, you know, Ride Along that came out, you know, featuring Kevin Hart and Ice Cube, you know, you cannot, and this is not to put down like Kevin Hart or the Ride Along things, that cannot be even named in the same bracket as any of the Rush Hours, you know. It's just not the same level, you know. As I was talking about, like when you see these two, it's like international. Ride Along just doesn't have that, you know. It doesn't take time to really let the jokes set. It's just one place to another, you know. And again, you know, Kevin Hart, he's a good comedian, but is he better than Chris Tucker? You know, that's in just my opinion, like from seeing him on the screen. I don't think he is, you know. But you know, if you, well, definitely check Rush Hour. You will not be disappointed. Yes, guys. So thank you for taking time with your busy, and I must say busy schedule to watch my review on 1998's hilarious action comedy Rush Hour.
Alright, yeah, so I hope you liked that. That was my original review of the Rush Hour that came out in 1998. For a lot of people in the 90s, as I mentioned in here, like seeing Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, who are beloved by so many races across the world, Rush Hour has such a lasting effect and lasting appeal, and it's almost universally loved across the world. There's people in Asia who still love to watch it, people in America, people in Africa, all across the world love to see Rush Hour. It's just pure comedic fun and entertainment, and it has a great narrative on there, something you've never seen before, displayed between these two charismatic actors who have the greatest chemistry you could ever see on screen. Yeah, so my thoughts have not even changed. I actually went back. Recently, and I looked back at the Rush Hour series, starting off from Rush Hour 2, went back to Rush Hour 1, and now we're gonna be looking at Rush Hour 3. So it's really nice to look at. It's really nice to re-review these movies which I've seen and I grew up with like time ago, and to see them now, and it still has that classic effect on it. Classic effect this movie presents is really excellent on there. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on Rush Hour 1, and stay tuned because I will be taking a dive into a look at the sequel Rush Hour 2 that came out 1, 2, 3 years later, Rush Hour 3. Chris Tucker, Jackie Chan, Lee Carter on this. So as I said, check me out on social media. It's RichManZ on Instagram. Check me out on TikTok. I'm also clipping these videos and putting on TikTok. And yes, stay tuned for more upcoming reviews, which trust me, which will be coming very, very soon. And if you haven't already done so, what are you waiting for? Get your paper right and update your wallet. Pew.